Happy Thanksgiving 1989, even though today is technically April 24th, and it's 2022. Welcome to Time About the Movies. We're in the holiday stretch here. We're on the weekend of Thanksgiving 1989, which is November 24th, and by the end of this week, we will have completed 1989, so that means we will be past Christmas and New Year's by the time this week's batch of new episodes is over and done with. So, let's not waste any time. Let's get to the one movie I have to look at this week, and it's a movie I'm very familiar with. Not only is it my first exposure to this franchise, but it's a movie I've seen numerous times, so I have a lot to say and talk about. So, without further ado, let's get to the lone new release this weekend, and it's a big one. That is Back to the Future Part 2.
Do you remember the future? You've got to come back with me. Where? Back to the future. Are we back? We're back.
What do you mean we're in the future?
October 21st, 2015.
Marty, we're going to be able to see our wedding.
Wow. Future. I gotta check this out, Doc.
Look what happened to your son.
Oh, he's a complete wimp.
Don't talk to anyone. You've been looking. Don't touch anything.
I need to borrow your hoverboard.
And try not to look at anything. I didn't invent the time machine to win at gambling.
I can't lose.
I invented a time machine to travel through time.
Hey, Doc, I'm all for that. What's wrong with making a few bucks on the side?
No. The time continuum has been disrupted, creating an alternate 1985. There have been a few changes.
It's like we're in hell or something.
No, it's Hill Valley, although I can't imagine hell being much worse. But they'll all be back. Eat less, smackers!
Biff?
Hello? Hello? Anybody home?
Well, it can't be you. You're so big.
Michael J. Fox. Christopher Lloyd. Michael J. Fox.
More like a couple of teenagers, you know?
And Michael J. Fox.
Mom, is that you?
Steven Spielberg presents a Robert Zemeckis film, Back to the Future, Part 2.
So yeah, I wasn't kidding. This was actually my first exposure to the Back to the Future franchise. They played this movie a lot all the time on USA Network in the 1990s, and I watched it a lot on USA in the 90s, and I thought to myself, this movie's actually pretty good. Where can I find the rest of these movies? And it took me a while to actually find the first movie. I actually found it on videotape, and I actually got it from down in Universal Studios, Florida, when we went there in, I think it was 98, so I got that at one of the Universal stores, and then Back to the Future Part 3 I had seen after I saw both the first movie and the second movie, and I didn't get an actual physical copy of it until I got the DVD of it back in 2002, the first DVD release, and I did eventually get the VHS later on down the line, and as you've seen on this channel, I've been collecting several different versions of Back to the Future on different forms of physical media, and that's only grown since then. If you want to see that original video I did for Back to the Future's 35th anniversary, click the link put up here at the top there. And down the line, I'll do a multiplicity episode showing you the latest update on the Back to the Future collection that I've been building up these last couple of years, because it has indeed grown. But, yeah, Back to the Future Part 2. I mean, it's really tough to come off a great movie like Back to the Future, and Back to the Future is a great movie. It's a movie that still holds up on so many levels. It's a movie I quote constantly. It's hard not to watch whenever it's on TV. If it's on TV, I have to stop what I'm doing and I have it on in the background, because I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it every single time. And it's just a great movie. It has so many memorable moments to it. It's one of my favorite. In fact, the whole trilogy, the Back to the Future trilogy, is in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. All the movies in the trilogy. I mean, it's just a great movie. Even though I think Back to the Future Part 3 is probably the weakest of the films, I still enjoy it. But we'll get into that one once we get to Back to the Future 3 next summer, in the summer of '90. But yeah, Back to the Future Part 2 is a really good movie. It's definitely not as good as the first movie, but I think it has a lot of unique things to it that makes it stand out on its own. Uh, One of the things that really gets you right from the beginning is where the final scene of Back to the Future starts this movie, and of course they had to reshoot this because the original actress who plays Jennifer, Claudia Wells, couldn't do this movie because I heard because she was like there's like family problems going on right now at the time of the film was being filmed, so they actually cast Elizabeth Shue, who had then come off of Adventures in Babysitting, and so they had to reshoot these scenes shot for shot, nearly identical to the original film. But if you look real closely in the beginning, you could definitely see notable differences. Like, I'll show you what I'm talking about right here with these two clips here. Note how in the original it's played up like a genuine moment, like nothing really different and all that, nothing really different compared to what it eventually becomes in the sequel. But in the sequel, notice how the acting is a little bit different. Like, Michael J. Fox and Elizabeth Shue are kind of talking a little more seriously than Fox and Claudia Wells in the original film. I'll show you what I mean when I show you the clip right here.
How about a ride, mister?
Jennifer. Oh, you a sight for sore eyes. Let me look at you.
Marty, you're acting like you haven't seen me in a week.
I haven't.
You okay? Is everything all right?
Oh, yeah. Everything is great.
How about a ride, mister?
Jennifer. Oh, man, you a sight for sore eyes. Let me look at you.
Marty, you're acting like you haven't seen me in a week.
I haven't.
Are you okay? Is everything all right?
Oh, yeah. Everything's great.
Yeah, notice how the acting was much different compared to how the original film played it out. Most of the sequence itself is pretty much shot for shot the first movie, except the difference is that in the first film, Doc says that there's nothing wrong with Marty in the original film's ending, saying that it was his kid, something's got to be done about his kids. But then, as we find out in the second film, Marty himself is not in the best possible place either. And he's also wearing a watch in the second film where he was in the first movie. So you look real closely, you can see those notable differences here and there. And for the most part, the movie is actually pretty good. Really good, I should say. I like that Biff is updated as a character in this movie. He's not just the typical dumb bully like he was in the first movie. He's actually grown as a character and, in fact, turns into more of a menace and a villain in this film compared to the other films, because he's actually gotten smarter because of what he's been presented to him with this almanac falling right into his hands. And you see what happens in the alternate future that they do here. I like the design of the casino. It's a mix of the courthouse mixed in with the Plaza Hotel in Las Vegas. You can tell it's the Plaza Hotel in Las Vegas. If you've ever seen that hotel, it's definitely that same design that they just took from that and put it into this movie. And it's a lot of fun. It's a fun movie. It's a fun idea to see these characters reacting to these scenes where one character from a different movie is opposite from the same character from another movie. Like, especially in the 1950, when they go back to 1955 and you have these scenes where Marty and Doc realize that there are two versions of themselves now in the past, including the ones from the Doc from 1955 and the Marty from 1985, and then the Doc and Marty from 1985 coming back to grab the almanac and head back in time and get rid of it. It's interesting to see what they're able to do here. And keep in mind, this is 1989. This is where they had to do a lot of work to make it seem like these scenes. They have to make these scenes look authentic. Like, there's this great scene where older Biff and the younger Biff, played by Tom Wilson, are in this car, and you have to make sure that there's nothing there to make it seem like it's obvious CG and all that. And they did a pretty good job for the most part, except for this one scene where young Biff throws the almanac and it looks really fake. I'll show you what I'm talking about here.
gonna make me rich? See, this book tells the future. It tells the results of every major sports event to the end of the century. Football, baseball, horse races, boxing. The information in here is worth millions. Thank you. That's very nice. Thank you very much. Now, why don't you make like a tree and get out of here? It's leave, you idiot. Make like a tree and leave. You sound like a damn fool when you say it wrong. All right then, leave. And take your book with you.
Like, you see how fast he threw that almanac and that thing just went up so quickly? I mean, they tried their best, but it looks a little too CG in a way. But CG's probably not the word for it. It doesn't look realistic, at least at that part right there. But for the most part, the scene is done pretty well, and they do have a lot of those moments in this movie. Like, there's one scene where Doc meets up with the Doc of 1955, and he's putting together the thing that's going to help send Marty back to 1985. And it's interesting because there's a piece of dialogue there where he's talking about the type of wrench to use. He's talking about the Doc from 1955. It's just like, hey, can you hand me this 5/8 wrench here? And Doc from 85 is just like, 5/8? Don't you mean 3/4? Because if you remember, the plug from the first movie fell out, and so that's why Doc had to come down and get the plug back in, so to send Marty back to 1955. You'll see what I'm talking about here.
Excuse me, sir. Yes, you with a hat?
Who? Me?
Yes. Be a pal, hand me a 5/8 inch wrench out of that toolbox. 5/8? Don't you mean 3/4? You're right. I presume you're conducting some sort of weather experiment. That's right. How did you know that? Oh, I happen to have had a little experience in this area. Yes. Well, I'm hoping to see some lightning tonight, although the weatherman says there's not going to be any rain. Well, there's going to be plenty of rain, all right. Wind, thunder, lightning. It's one hell of a storm. Well, thanks. Nice talking to you. Maybe we'll bump into each other sometime again in the future. Or in the past.
See, like, little things like that are pretty interesting. Although, if Doc has given him the wrench to use so the plug doesn't break off, then why would he still be climbing down from the clock tower then? So, yeah, little things like that. There are little things like that don't make a whole lot of sense, but it doesn't really affect the enjoyment factor of the movie itself. You're still enjoying what the movie has to offer to you. And there are just a lot of great moments in this movie when Marty has to go up on top of the stage while his 1955 stuff is doing Johnny Be Good, because Biff's bully friends are about to attack the Marty from 1985, and if he gets beat up, then there's a major paradox, and the whole world could come in on itself. And so there's this great scene where you see the Marty doing Johnny Be Good down the stage, while you see the Marty from 1985 on top of the stage trying to find a way to stop these bullies. And it's a great scene. There actually are a lot of good tension-filled scenes like that. There's the scene in the bridge. There's the bridge scene where Marty finally gets the almanac, and he has to go all the way. He has to get away from Biff, and he goes on the bridge to the hoverboard, and you're just wondering if he's ever going to get away from him. And then it has that the great climax at the end when Doc comes in to save the day. And so we then get to the end of the movie, and you think everything's going to wrap up. Everything's about to be the almanac is destroyed. The future is back, and then the DeLorean gets struck by lightning, and then you realize that we're going to set up for part 3. So, and it has a great heartfelt moment when Doc sends the letter back to Marty, and the Western Union guy gives it to him, and Marty realizes that there's only one man who could send it back from the future, and that is. Back to the future, and that is the Doc from 1955. So there's this great scene where Doc sends the Marty from 1985 back to the future. Everything, it's like the first movie. Everything looks like it's going to be A-okay, and then all of a sudden the new scene comes in, and then Marty runs in to the Doc from 1955. He's just like, "I'm back from the future," and then Doc faints, and then we cut to the to be concluded segment of the movie, which leads us into part 3. Yeah, I may have made it a little more confusing than it needs to be, but that is what the movie is. Like, it's not a perfect movie. There are definitely moments in the movie that don't work as well, like the replacement of Crispin Glover. There was a whole thing about he didn't want to come back for Back to the Future Part 2 because of the money issue, so they replaced a new actor. And because of this, I guess the second film was the second film and the third film was supposed to have more with him in them. So they replaced him, and they actually gave Jennifer more to do in the sequels. That's why they brought in Elizabeth Shue instead of Claudia Wells. That's one of the reasons why she came in here, because she showed off her comedic potential in Adventures in Babysitting. And I mean, Elizabeth Shue was all right in here. I didn't think she really had a whole lot to do in this movie, but for what she had to do, she did a pretty good job, I think, given what she had to do. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have much more to say about this movie that I don't think anybody else has really said already. This is just a great movie. This is just a really fun movie. It's not as good as Back to the Future 1, but it really doesn't need to be. It does continue the story. It still has a lot of moments in here that you can definitely remember. I still have a lot of great lines and moments from this movie that I'll always remember. It's a funny movie. It's got the spirit of the original movie for the most part, and it's a fun adventure film, and it does make you want to see more of these adventures to come with the next movie. So I don't think it's an overall disaster of a movie like most people did at the time think it was. The movie did not get as many good reviews as what you might have expected, but it did well at the box office, and it has grown a following over the years. And that's pretty much all I got to say about this. The Back to the Future movies are my favorite movies. This was the first movie I was ever introduced to the series with, and it does hold a special place in my heart. And I really do like Back to the Future Part 2. Like I said, I don't think it's as good as the first one, but it's still an enjoyable adventure film, and I really do enjoy it. Every time it's on TV, I gotta watch it. It's a fun adventure film, really good film. Can't say any more about it that has been said already. It's just a great, great film. So with all that said, that's going to wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time around, we enter December 1989 with another movie that only came out that weekend, and that was National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And that's a movie that I could definitely speak a lot about, so we'll definitely delve into that on the next episode. So thank you guys for watching, and as always, if you want to see more videos like this, check out the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode I did, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the Christmas Vacation episode. So thank you guys for watching, I'll see you next time, and until the next time I see you, take care.